Prepare for battle because America is worth fighting for. This is the Keith Lee Show. Bare-knuckled, no holds barred, and unapologetic. Here's your host, Keith Lee.
And let's do it. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Keith Lee Show. Happy Monday. I hope you guys had a great weekend. And what a weekend it was. So the Democrat Party and the left as a whole, they have taken their Trump derangement syndrome to a whole nother level. I don't think there's any cure for this disease. Because, the reality is, folks, you can't fix stupid. Stupid is eternal. Stupid is within. Stupid requires a Herculean effort to get out of that stupidity. But the president, as you all know, before we went off the air on Friday, the president was checked into Walter Reed Medical Facility, and he seemed to be doing pretty good. The president gave a small little update video detailing the efforts that went into, or the decision that went into bringing him to Walter Reed. He looked pretty good. And as we discussed also on Friday, you have the likes of Michael Moore and several others on the left that came up with the most ridiculous conspiracy theory that the president is essentially faking his coronavirus diagnosis to garner the sympathy vote. And I thought that was put to bed on Friday. But in reality, though, it only continued to increase over the weekend. All throughout Twitter and all throughout social media as a whole, you're seeing Trump COVID hoax trending on Twitter. Because apparently, the president getting better is actually a bad thing. The president getting better only works to fuel the idea that he's faking this diagnosis. The president knows he's going to lose so badly, he's willing to try anything, not just work with the Russians to hack the election yet again, not just willing to get rid of the ballots because, remember, the president wants to get rid of the ballots because he knows once the votes are tallied, he's going to lose. So now, in a last-ditch desperate effort, the president thinks, you know what? Maybe I can fake a coronavirus diagnosis and then I can get the sympathy vote. I mean, this is fantastic stuff. The reality is, I don't understand something with the left. On the one hand, they say the president's stupid, the president's a moron, he doesn't know what he's doing. But then when it's convenient for them, the president is capable of playing 3D and 4D and 5D chess. That he's willing to weave the web so deviously and so cunning that he's thinking 5 steps ahead of everybody else. So which one is it? Is he a moron? Is he stupid? Or is he an idiot savant? You choose. Another thing that seemed to develop over the weekend, the media just can't take the president at his word. The media can't take anybody that's around the president at their word, including people that we've been told over and over again, we have to listen to them without any sort of deniability. The medical experts say we have to, if the medical experts say we got to do something, we got to do it. The science says we have to do something. Well, guess what? They're infallible. We have to listen to every single word. Unless those medical experts are supposedly in league with the president. The president's doctor and the team that works with him at Walter Reed Medical gave a very upbeat update about the president. The president's doing very well. The president's responding very well to medicines. His oxygen levels dropped down a couple of times. I think he had a little bit of supplemental oxygen, but it was only one time. He's responding to remdesivir. There's another antibody cocktail that they've given him. And the president's doing really well. That should have been the end of the story. But then right after the president's doctors gives the update, now we have unnamed sources. Yes, unnamed, or people close to the president. People with knowledge of the situation are saying that the president is really in dire straits. So you see what the left is trying to do here? On the one hand, the president's faking the coronavirus. But then on the other hand, no, he's actually on his deathbed. Again, which one is it? Which one is it? And the media can't stand this, folks. They can't stand this. The media, as soon as they heard the president had to check himself into Walter Reed, or that it was advised that he would go to Walter Reed, they were gloating like you wouldn't imagine. Oh, the president's finally getting his comeuppance. We've seen the president not wear a mask, not wear a mask, not wear a mask, and now the chickens are coming home to roost. But I'm a little bit confused by this. The media is saying, well, the president got coronavirus because he didn't wear a mask. But I've been told so many times, you've all been told, that the masks are meant to protect other people if we had the coronavirus. Now, the president was tested every single day. Everybody within the president's orbit was tested every single day. We keep hearing we need testing. Oh, that we don't have enough tests. Nancy Pelosi, when she's trying to hold in her dentures, she's like, oh, we need testing, we need tracing, we need sanitation, we need testing. The president and his team gets tested every single day, multiple times a day, and they still got the coronavirus. The president, rightfully thinking, if I get tested every day, and if my team is tested every day, why should I wear a mask if I'm standing 20 feet away from somebody? So he got the virus. If you look at the science, if you listen to the medical experts, they are suggesting that until there is a vaccine, most of the population is going to get the virus. So why is it any surprise at all? And of course, the media is saying, oh, well, the president should have did all. After all that gloating and after all that showboating about Joe Biden hiding in his basement, Joe Biden was right. Was he right? Or the reality is that we're all going to get this virus at some point. By the way, there was even a report that came out from the World Health Organization, okay? The same World Health Organization that initially lied to us about the transmissibility of coronavirus, that lied to us that China was able to completely quarantine their people, that the coronavirus wasn't going to get out. I think the initial report that the World Health Organization came out with said that the coronavirus was mostly in animals and that there was no transmissibility to people. Now we now know that all of that were lies. All of those were lies. The World Health Organization said today that they're estimating that 10% of the global population has contracted the coronavirus. 10%. Okay? So we have about 7 billion people on this planet. 7 billion people. 10%, I do the math, 700 million people possibly have had coronavirus. Let's look at the data. Let's look at the facts. Most of the people that come down with the coronavirus are asymptomatic. Or if they experience any symptoms, it's very mild. The point I'm making with all that is this. The total number of global deaths, and again, every life is important. We don't take anybody's life for granted. We have just a little over 1 million deaths globally. If you do the math, that would be a fatality rate of 0.001%, which is exactly in line with the flu season. The president has tried to find a balance between listening to the medical experts, listening to the science, but also recognizing that we have an economy that needs to survive, an economy that needs to perform. It's so strange to me. It's so strange to me that a president who has acted, who has done more than anybody else in the world to protect the citizens of their country, the left continues to gloat today because the president somehow contracted the coronavirus. What is the proper response to this epidemic, this pandemic? Are we supposed to stay at home until there's a vaccine? Are we supposed to stay at home until, guess what, the medical experts decide one day in the distant future, no date knowable, that we can finally come out of our homes, that we can finally interact with our families? What are we to do? So it's sad that the president got the virus. But statistically speaking, the president was always going to be okay. Just like most of us, if we got the virus, we're all going to be okay. That's what the facts say. That's what the evidence says. That's what the science says. How you can gloat over this is truly beyond me. And as I mentioned on Friday, to see people wishing death on the president, wishing death on the first lady, and anybody else, any other Republican that contracted this virus is truly disgusting. And this is why I continue to say that the left is evil. I hate speaking in those terms. I'm not the most spiritual person out there. I believe in God. I love Jesus and all that, but I'm not overly spiritual. And I hate using terms like good and evil all the time because there are people who like to use those terms to influence certain outcomes, certain events. But when I look at the landscape of the Democrat Party, I look at the people who run the Democrat Party, these are truly evil people. Republicans don't celebrate somebody's illness. They don't celebrate people's deaths. I didn't see any Republican, any mainstream Republican, celebrating the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Myself personally, when she passed away, I said the president needs to name her replacement. Not as a celebration of her death, but the fact that I knew the Democrats were going to play politics with her passing. There's a big difference. But to wish death on the president of the United States because you disagree with him, because you believe every conspiracy theory the left puts out, that he's in league with Russia, that he stole the election, he hacked the election. He's working with all of our foreign enemies just so he can maintain power. He's willing to disenfranchise people from being able to vote. Even, by the way, as you all know, the St. Dr. Fauci said it was okay, that it was perfectly safe to vote in person with, yes, social distancing and mask wearing. We've highlighted many times on this show all of the fraud that exists with mail-in voting, with mail-in ballots. We mentioned it all. But the left continues to push conspiracy theories and their base eats it up. So I get back to a general thesis that I've been having in my brain. What is this country going to look like? Are we going to ever get back to a point where we have a common goal, both Republicans and Democrats, to advance this country, to make sure that we're leaving something for our children and our grandchildren that's better than what we have today? Do we really share a common goal as a people, as an American population? I seriously doubt that. And if you look at the landscape as it exists today, there's no way you can't come to the conclusion that we are indeed in the middle of a civil war, a political civil war. I'm not talking about violence. I'm not talking about anything like that. I'm talking about a war for this country, a war for the idea of what it means to be an American. The left has some serious differences with us. They have some serious ideas about what they want to do to this country. There are a lot of people out there today that are willingly ignoring the policy prescriptions coming out of Antifa and Black Lives Matter. If you look at the debate last week, what was said? What did Joe Biden say about Antifa? That Antifa was an idea. Now, you and I know that's BS. Antifa is a well-funded organization. It's the same thing with Black Lives Matter, a very well-funded organization. Unfortunately, we have a lot of good-natured people who look at the claims coming out of Black Lives Matter and they say, well, wait a minute, I'm not a racist. Yes, I want black people to have the same rights that I have, which we do, by the way. So it's easy to go along with the overarching theme, the overarching narrative that gets put out by the left. But then when you start digging deeper and deeper, and you start to pay attention to what these people want to do to this country, there's never going to be a time where we can find a common ground, that we'll be able to live in this country and sing Kumbaya together. That's never going to happen. There needs to be a decisive victory. We need to win decisively. One of the things the president was able to highlight when he came down the escalator and he completely did away with the entire establishment Republican Party, he showed us that we have to fight. This is a president that has always had the perspective that if I get hit, I'm going to hit them back 3 times harder. Well, as a Republican Party and as a country as a whole, we've been hit many, many times before, but we have not put up the fight until we elected Donald Trump. The reason the left is going crazy, the reason why they're peddling lies and conspiracy theories, things that are easily disprovable, is because they are afraid. It's because they've been able to get away with pushing those lies and conspiracy theories for decades. There have been many weak Republicans over the years, many weak-ass Republicans over the years who have left Washington with their tail between their legs only based off of the allegations. Not whether or not the person did anything, but off of the allegations and the news that came out and the public pressure because of the fake news. This is a president who has had backbone. This is a president that has been able to withstand an all-out assault for the last 4 years. Yet, prior to the coronavirus, gave us the best economy we've ever had. He gave us the best defense, spending billions and billions of dollars rebuilding our military, creating a whole new branch of the military in the Space Force, bringing jobs that we were told would never come back again, putting hundreds of conservative justices all over our federal courts. A legacy that we're going to be able to experience and benefit from for decades to come. This president has been Ronald Reagan on steroids, but you wouldn't know about it because of all of the supposed allegations and investigations that have gone on for 4 years. Oh, and by the way, nothing has ever come of them. The Mueller investigation, 2.5 years, $40 million, no collusion whatsoever. None. They were digging, nothing. Wasting taxpayer dollars. There are people to this day that truly believe Russia hacked the elections. That somehow Russia was able to come in, go down to the polling station, open up the polling booths and change the votes from Hillary to Donald Trump. There are people that really believe that. With respect to the coronavirus, there are people in this country. There was a crazy poll I saw a few months back where there's 30% of the country believe that 10% of the people who've gotten the coronavirus in this country have died. That essentially millions of Americans have died of the coronavirus. Not the unfortunate 200,000 lives we've lost, but millions. Now, because a large group of Americans actually believe that millions of people have died in this country from the China virus, this is why we're seeing all over Twitter, Trump is going to die. The way the media has reported this pandemic makes you believe that this coronavirus is just as bad as cancer. That if you contract this disease, well, it's touch and go. Maybe it's 50-50. We don't know what's going to happen. It's not true. It's not true. Unless you're under the age of 60, even if you're over the age of 60, the survivability is still 99%. I know people have lost a lot of people. Listen, I know there are people out there who lost loved ones. And you know what? If you're that statistical anomaly, that's a terrible thing. But if you get the coronavirus, you are not likely to die. That's not how the media is portraying this. The president is tweeting that he's feeling really good. He puts out videos that he's feeling really good. Oh, those videos must be doctored. That video must have been taken a couple of days before he went to Walter Reed. There's no way he can be walking around. He's 74 years old and he's obese. He's a little overweight. But even the medical experts are saying he's not obese. These people are truly off their rockers. Truly off their rockers because they have nothing left. When's the last time you heard the Democrats say, well, these are our policies and this is why it's going to benefit America? You're never hearing that right now. You're not going to hear that right now. Because everything they propose is full of politics. There's nothing they bring out today that has anything to do with helping ordinary Americans. Oh, by the way, what happened to that second stimulus bill? What happened to that second round of the $1,200? Why hasn't that gone out to the American people yet? You want to know why? Because Nancy Pelosi is still playing politics. Instead of figuring out a way to get money into Americans' hands, Americans that need it, Pelosi wants to still give hundreds of millions of dollars to things that don't matter, to the National Endowment of the Arts, to give away all these little goodies to the teachers' unions. You want to educate your kids. You want to send your kids back to school. The science says it's okay, that it's safe to send your kids back to school. But we have politicians all across America putting a wrench into that whole situation. I have a story for you a little bit later here in New York. Now, mind you, we've been under complete lockdown. Yes, only a couple of days ago, you can finally walk into a restaurant at 25% capacity. We still don't have movie theaters. The gyms only reopened with less capacity. Yet now, we're seeing spikes in the coronavirus cases here in New York. Remember, Cuomo's been applauded. New York is the model for how to fight the coronavirus. So even though we're still technically in lockdown, even though nobody is still going back into their offices, and we still don't have tons of people riding the trains or riding the buses, we're still seeing spikes. At the end of the day, folks, you have to break through the noise. Do not be swayed by the attacks that are coming from the left, because as we get closer and closer to this election, the attacks are going to get worse and worse and worse. But just know this, the Democrats are operating from a position of weakness. They are weak. They have nothing to offer the American people. And they know that you are not going to be swayed by their lies and by their distortions. And because of that, that scares the shit out of them. Now, this was a fantastic scene yesterday. The president, after doing very well with the treatment he's receiving at Walter Reed, he wanted to acknowledge all of his supporters that have been waiting outside the hospital the last couple of days. I mean, it was really a tremendous sight. We have the clip for you right now. I mean, this is wonderful. And of course, the media has a conniption. Of course, oh my God, the president's putting a Secret Service in danger. This is so selfish, how horrible this is. But take a look at the president. This is the person that we elected. This is the person that we wanted to lead this country. This is the warrior that we wanted for the battles to come. Take a look at this clip. It's really stunning.
Has just taken place in the last few seconds. Donald Trump tweeted a couple of minutes ago thanking medical staff and thanking the great patriots, as he put it, who are gathered outside the hospital here with their flags, saying he was going to pay them a surprise. And sure enough, moments later, a big motorcade started driving up the road behind me, and it was Donald Trump surrounded by security and police. Police also turned up on the street here a few moments before. One officer told me he didn't even know why he'd been told to stand to attention here to clear the road. And Donald Trump appeared in a long motorcade, driving very slowly, waving with the window down to his supporters, wearing a face mask. The motorcade then did a U-turn at the bottom of the road there, and they drove back. And Donald Trump drove just a couple of meters from where I'm standing now and waved to us, wearing a face mask. An extraordinary event. The president...
Amazing stuff, folks. Amazing stuff. And like I said, the media is completely bitching over this. Because, the fact is, this whole idea that the president doesn't want to listen to the science, the president doesn't want to listen to the experts, is complete bull. Complete bull. If you look in the video, the Secret Service agents that are with him in the car are in full protective gear. Masks and face shields and hazmat suits. I mean, these guys are completely covered. And the doctors at Walter Reed said that there was no No risk to this. Okay? But now the people who are not with the president, the people who are not a part of the president's medical team, they know better. They know better. This is a president that doesn't care about the Secret Service. This is a president that wants to put their lives in danger because of his selfishness, because he knows that he's losing in the polls. Listen to this clip from, these people, they make me sick. So we have this, well, now you have to technically call her a they. This woman called Marsha Gessen. Now, Marsha Gessen is she's a tranny, okay? I know transgendered and all that other crap. One day she woke up and she wanted to be a man. And then I guess, being a man wasn't good enough for her. So now she's non-binary. And of course, because she's a non-binary journalist that works for The Atlantic and The New Yorker, yes, she is the noted expert on presidential corruption. Yes, this reminds her a lot of like what happened in Russia. Listen to this this woman or it, whatever the hell they want to call themselves today.
Masha, what do you see happening in America right now with a country unable to know what to believe about the president's health?
Well, Brian, there have been a lot of comparisons to the Soviet Union in the last couple of days, and I think they're not unwarranted. The particular period that I'm thinking about is something that I've written about a lot, which were the days of Stalin's death watch. Right? When
Stalin's death watch?
The foreign correspondents and the domestic correspondents, such as they were, all knew what was going on. Nobody was giving them any information. Everybody was expecting the final call, right? And the planet filled with rumor. And the thing is, it's not so much what we're being told by White House officials or by the doctors. You can actually create a reasonable narrative from all the things that they have put out there. It is the palpable sense that people are not speaking, that they are withholding information. And of course, the sense of total lack of credibility that's been established over the last 4 years.
You see, so it's not that. So the president, this is impossible. The president's a 74-year-old fat man. He shouldn't be able to walk around. These people have to be lying. There's no credibility. The president ripped apart his credibility over the last 4 years. Again, the same president that has been lied about, defamed for the last 4 years. The same media that has spent the last 4 years trying to destroy this man. They want to sit here and talk about credibility? Are you kidding me? So again, these are supposed to be our betters. These are supposed to be the people who are going to lead us into the future. You, mouth-breathing Republican idiot, don't want to pay attention to the science, don't care about protecting grandma. You just want to go out there and watch a movie. You just want to go out there and get your nails done. This is what our betters on the left are saying. And because we are part of this death cult, we just can't see it. We've been swept up by the cult of personality that is Donald John Trump. And it didn't end there, folks. Again, noted presidential historian Carl Bernstein, who's done one thing in his entire life. He writes a book, he writes a big report about Richard Nixon, and now every single time when the media thinks, here's another corrupt Republican, here comes Carl Bernstein. Again, Carl Bernstein is not a doctor. He's not an epidemiologist. He's not a medical expert. Okay? Now, we were told that we cannot comment on these things unless we are the experts. That, of course, is unless you are a liberal. If you're a liberal media person, a liberal politician, you can say whatever the hell you want to say because you believe in the science. Listen to Carl Bernstein.
Since then, his response has been homicidal negligence.
Homicidal negligence. Now, so the president has outdoor rallies. The president is putting out an image of strength so as not to scare the American public. And now he is displaying homicidal negligence. But we're the crazy ones. How many times have we heard the president be called a murderer over the last couple of months? Every single time you turn on CNN or MSNBC, you literally see the death watch. Every second, you have to update the clock, update the numbers of another person who died of the coronavirus. And all day, 15, 16 hours a day, journalists and political pundit at the political pundit. The president's a murderer. The president's solely responsible for the deaths of 205,000 people. The president crashed the economy just like we predicted. But we're the crazy ones.
He has failed to protect the American people and rather to put his own interests of re-election and holding on to the office of the presidency in front of the health and well-being of the American people. And what we are seeing in this last week is the same thing, this willingness, this negligence, even as he himself has become stricken with this horrible disease, his interests in front of the country's for purposes of his re-election. Again, let's take a look at the timing that's under question here. This going to Bedminster after knowing, it certainly looks like, that his closest aide, with whom he spends the most time and proximity in the Oval Office, Hope Hicks, has come down with the virus, and he then goes to a fundraiser in Bedminster. He also goes to a campaign event. Apparently, he and certainly his staff and the chief of staff and others, knowing that he has been exposed to somebody who's testing positive and apparently has COVID. This too gets to...
By the way, everything he just said was a lie. They didn't get the diagnosis. They didn't get the test back until after the event at Bedminster. So as you see, the president only cares about being reelected. The president should step down. The 25th Amendment should be invoked because he is not capable of doing his job. The president must have some mental deficiencies because if he hasn't stepped down by now, that's proof that he's not up to the task of being the president. The folks, honestly, do you think any of this would be said right now if Obama was president? Do you even believe that we'd have the death count every single minute on CNN and MSNBC? Do you think the media will be out there every single day claiming that Obama wants to kill his people? Do any of you believe that? What would Joe Biden have done differently than what this president has been able to do the last 6 months? Nobody can answer that question. All Joe Biden says is, we're going to listen to the scientists, listen to the experts. What's the plan, Joe? What is the plan? I haven't heard a plan. Producer JJ, have you heard a plan? He hasn't heard a plan either. Hey, Lila the dog, have you heard a plan? My dog hasn't heard the plan. The president wants to maintain power. How many times we got to hear this stupid narrative? This fake narrative. We don't hear anything about policies. Where are the policies? One final clip from the media. And this is fantastic. This is allegedly straight Brian Stelter again. This guy's the most effeminate person on TV. It's ridiculous. Oh, yes. The president's not taking care of his people. Yes. So on Brian Stelter's show, he had Carl Cameron. Now, Carl Cameron used to be the political reporter in the White House, the chief political reporter when he was at Fox News. But since he left Fox News, yes, he has to reclaim his dignity and spewing the most leftist garbage you could possibly find. Here's Carl Cameron talking about how irresponsible the president is and how the media needs to know every single thing. Because here's what happened. The president's doctors gave a fantastic update. The president's responding to the medicines. The president's walking around. The president's working. Oh, but I heard from an unnamed source who knows Melania Trump's assistant. He said that the president is not doing so well, that the president's on his deathbed. So media doesn't listen to the experts. They listen to the rumor. And when they're made fun of because of that, then, there are people out there today. It's such a dangerous time, such a dangerous world we're living in when people aren't taking the media seriously. The media needs to hold the president's feet to the fire. The media needs to be the voice of the people. We are important. How dare the president? Listen to Carl Cameron.
Carl Cameron, I think the question here is, do you have any advice for the journalists trying to keep up with all these stories? Frankly, Carl, any advice for the public?
I can't stand this guy's voice. Do you have any advice for the public, Carl?
Trying to keep up with all this news.
Yeah, I think we have to take a really close look at what's happening today and then just rewind it to the campaign of 2015 and 2016, in which most Republicans voted for somebody else during the Republican nomination race in the various different states up until...
What the hell does that mean? Oh, well, most Republicans voted for somebody. That happens in every primary. Most Democrats voted for somebody else before Joe Biden. It only when we got to South Carolina, and here come the black vote. Oh, yes, the black vote saved Joe Biden. And just like that, out of nowhere, Joe is back. So what does that mean? Oh, most of the people didn't vote for the president. What does that mean? It's a completely pointless statement. It adds no value whatsoever. But I guess he felt he had to say it.
The very last moment where Trump won a plurality of Republicans for the Republican nomination. And what we have now is a prima facie evidence of a person who became president by gaslighting the public, hiding his own failures, his lack of capacity and ability, and now finds himself in Walter Reed Hospital with a virus that he essentially convinced a good portion of the country was not a threat to their lives.
Regarding that statement, can any of you think of anything the president has ever said that would lead you to believe that the coronavirus was nothing? You see, the president, again, we keep having to go back to this. The media is continuing to push a lie that the president called the coronavirus a hoax. When the president mentioned anything being a hoax, he was referring to the media's response and the Democrat Party's response to his response. Okay? The president's mobilizing the medical industry, private industries to create ventilators and PPE. We send the medical ship up the Hudson River. We create new hospital capacity. And the Democrats are saying the president is a xenophobe. The president's a liar. The president's not taking this seriously. And the president said that response was a hoax. But now we play the game. The president called the coronavirus a hoax. The president was responsible for that idiot couple digesting freaking fish tank cleaner. Oh, because it had hydroxychloroquine in it. And now the husband died. And we found out, wait, there might be a little bit more to that story. Maybe the wife didn't care about her husband so much. The media thinks they have a right to call this president a liar. The media thinks they have a right to call us sycophants and cult leaders and cult members. Are you kidding me? And we spent the last 4 years putting up with every BS lie that they've created for the last 4 years. Countless investigations, countless hearings, the drip of unnamed sources, allegations that can't be proven. But it's the president that doesn't have. This is ridiculous. The president is not being honest. People are full of it, folks. People are full of it. No, I'm done with that. You know what scares the Democrats? Is this poll right here. That 90% of Cuban Americans are planning on voting, and 60% of the Cuban vote is voting for Donald Trump. 60%. I wonder why. See, it used to be a time when the Democrats would say, well, Florida's a swing state. But Republicans have been winning Florida, haven't they? You look at Miami. Miami should be Democrat run. No, it's not. I wonder why. Because, the Cubans, yes, they lived under socialism. They know what the left wants to bring to this country, and they refuse to vote for that. They refuse to bring that to their adopted homeland, their adopted country. we see poll numbers like this, that scares the daylights out of them. And so when we have positive news coming out of polls, then now the left has to create something new. So we had this ridiculous poll that came out yesterday. It was a joint poll with NBC News and the Wall Street Journal. Now, Joe Biden is supposedly up by 14 points in this poll. 14 points. Now I said, what the hell? How can that be? Until you start to look into the internals of the poll. And when you look into the internals of the poll, here's what you get. They put 45% of the electorate as Democrats and only 35% as Republicans. And the rest were all independents. And you know what they did? They shifted 60% of the independent vote to Joe Biden. Now, Joe Biden's up by 14%. Now, by the way, this poll is complete nonsense, not only because of the weighting of the poll, but because these are likely voters, not actual voters. Because if you look at polls that show, listen, look at the numbers from 2016. We have a poll that came out from Gallup. Joe Biden is only ahead by 2 points. We have a poll by Rasmussen that also uses registered voters in the electorate from 2016. The president is only down by 2 points. How can we have such a swing from 14 points to 2 points? And by the way, just to give you some context, this same poll had Hillary Clinton up by 12 points this time back in 2016. Now, we all know the results of that election. They're scared, folks. They're scared. Let's transition a little bit. So we were also treated this weekend to yet another race hoax. Another race hoax. I don't know why people keep falling for this. I don't know how many times we have to talk about this on this show. Every single, it's like whenever I hear the drive-by media talking about, some racial event that happened, I just instinctually now, I don't even pay attention to it. I say, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait. Because the way the story will be written will be based off of the narrative. If there was any interaction between a white person and a black person, and the black person didn't come out of it as the victor, or they ended up dead, yes, the white person killed the black person because of racism, or the white person beat the black person up because of racism. And now we have this woman named Althea Bernstein. Now, Althea Bernstein crafted a very interesting tale. A tale that if anybody was paying attention, anybody with a brain paying attention would have immediately known it was all BS. Take a listen to this clip from Good Morning America after the attack supposedly happened.
The 18-year-old biracial woman who says she was attacked by white men while she was driving. Althea Bernstein.
4 white men while she was driving.
Says she was set on fire, and Alex Perez joins us with the latest on the investigation. Good morning, Alex.
Hey, good morning, George. The 18-year-old says she's studying to be a paramedic, and some of those skills kicked in the horrifying moment she was attacked. This morning, police in Madison, Wisconsin are searching for the suspects responsible for this. A young biracial woman suffering 2nd and 3rd degree burns after she says she was set on fire.
I haven't really slept, and I don't really have an appetite, so it's just, I don't want anyone to ever feel like this.
18-year-old Althea Bernstein says she was on her way to her brother's house around 1 a.m. Wednesday morning. She says she was stopped at a red light and listening to music when she heard someone yell the N-word. According to the police report, her driver cited...
Because as you all know, America is full of white people just calling black people the N-word. And by the way, you can't see the clip, but she doesn't even look black, by the way. Maybe you can pass for a Spanish, maybe she's Puerto Rican, maybe a light-skinned Dominican. And that's just playing devil's advocate here. But as you all know, there are raving mobs of white people walking around calling black people niggas.
window was down and she heard someone yell out a racial epithet. She looked and saw 4 men, all white. She says one used a spray bottle to deploy a liquid on her face and neck and then threw a flaming lighter at her, causing the liquid to ignite.
So basically, what she should have did? She should have said, yeah, there were 4 guys and like 2 of them had MAGA hats on. That would have really brought it home, right? So 4 guys randomly walking around at 1 o'clock in the morning happens to peer into a car to see this Puerto Rican, Dominican looking chick and say, oh, she's black. Let me go bring out a spray bottle of alcohol. Let me get a butane torch and light this bitch up.
She drove forward and patted out the flames.
I don't even remember anything, but your brain still has that fight or flight response.
Fight or flight.
Takes care of you. So I made it home. I called my mom. I went to
she fled to the McDonald's.
I drove myself to the ER.
Now, in active and ongoing investigation, Madison's mayor saying, while we are still learning more about the details, current information suggests this may have been a premeditated crime targeted toward people of color, which makes the incident even more disturbing.
Yes.
It's definitely a learning opportunity, and I'm very, very hopeful that these men sort of see all the responses and that
the freaking crocodile tears. And it's not just that, there was such an outpouring that even Meghan Markle, Princess Meghan, weighed in on this case. Listen to this.
Where this is still present.
Both Meghan and Harry are very committed to the Black Lives Matter movement.
This is going to be an area where we're going to see the couple doing a lot more work and taking a lot more interest. They've been very busy with the COVID.
As you all know, Princess Meghan is on the case. So folks, but here's the reality. Here's what actually happened. This is from Town Hall. It was another one of those Jussie Smollett-like hate crimes that sounded perfectly made up to any well-adjusted person, which probably explains why liberals fell for it. A biracial woman in Madison, Wisconsin, told police officers back in June that she was attacked by 4 white racist men who looked like frat boys. All the frat boys, because frat boys, a whole bunch of racists in those frat houses. The woman, Althea Bernstein, kind of a Jewish name, isn't it, right? Think about Leonard Bernstein for a second. 18, claimed the 4 men pulled alongside her vehicle at a stoplight, called her a racial epithet, sprayed lighter fluid through the window, and then lit the teenager on fire. But apparently, while police have not ruled out any connections between Bernstein's case and another case of arson that took place that night, police are now closing their exhaustive investigation into Bernstein's alleged hate crimes after finding 0 evidence to corroborate her story. In a statement, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Wisconsin, who also investigated Bernstein's claims alongside the FBI, said that after reviewing all available evidence, authorities could not establish that the attack, as alleged by the complainant, had occurred. Investigators say footage, now this is where it gets real juicy. Footage from that night shows Bernstein had her window rolled up as she drove in a different lane than the one she told investigators she was driving in. And Bernstein's vehicle didn't stop at any stoplights where the attack was alleged to have occurred. Bernstein also turned over GPS evidence on her phone, and investigators established that Bernstein had texted a friend about the incident while Bernstein was still at her house. She was at the friend's house while she's texting the friend saying she got attacked. Of course, we didn't need expensive investigation into Bernstein's claims because Bernstein's claims were manifestly false. As Instant Pundit pointed out, Bernstein looks like Rachel Dolezal. Not to say Bernstein isn't biracial, but she's certainly not a person who will be targeted by a group of racist white men out to get a black person. As I said, you look her up, this chick looks very light skinned. I wouldn't put her for black. But liberals are either gullible or simply can't pass up an opportunity to stoke racial divisions in the country, no matter how preposterous the claims. NFL players Todd Gurley of the Atlanta Falcons and Oren Burks of the Green Bay Packers put Bernstein's name on their helmets as part of the NFL's Inspire Change program. Maybe Bernstein's fake hate crime will inspire change and the NFL will stop believing all of the false lies told to them by Black Lives Matter Marxists. Bernstein was invited on the Good Morning America. I played that clip for you. As he said, this was a good learning opportunity to show the world that racism still exists in the United States. Another day, another racial hoax. How many times do we have to put up with this? How many times are we going to allow the left to gaslight this country, to stoke racial divisions where there isn't any, where there doesn't need to be any? Are roving white mobs running around the country calling black people niggers? Is that even within the realm of reality? No. This country is so racist, leftists have to create racism every single day to prove the point. Again, folks, does that sound like the left is really winning? Does that sound like an enemy you need to be afraid of? I don't think so. I don't think so. There's so much more to talk about, but we're going to leave it here for today. They're afraid, folks. The good news is, and we're getting it right now, that there's some rumblings going on that the president might indeed be discharged from Walter Reed this afternoon. Now, if that's the case, we'll talk about it when we meet back here again on Wednesday. Thanks for listening. If you like what you're hearing, please be sure to like and subscribe. Smash the subscribe button on YouTube. If you're listening to us on the podcast, thank you so much. Like and subscribe. Leave your feedback. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can do so at www.thekeithleeshow.com. That's www.thekeithleeshow.com. I realized I forgot the little introduction earlier today. And you can reach me on Instagram at The Real Keith Lee, on Twitter at The Real Keith Lee, and so many others. So let's thank you guys so much for everything you do. Thank you for the support that you've given me. We're only a month away, folks. Only a month away from stopping the left, from pushing back against the frontiers of ignorance. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Take care.